came out yesterday. The FBI looks bad.
Very bad.
Your FBI.
Well, no, it was Comey. I mean, they were talking about Comey, not my FBI. It was Comey. The people in the FBI are incredible. I would bet if you took a poll in the FBI, I would win that poll by more than anybody's ever won a poll. But the top people were horrible. You look at what happened. They were plotting against my election.
Presidential attorney Rudy Giuliani said it's Comey who should be investigated and that the FBI agent should be, quote, fired today and in prison next week.
Let's investigate the investigators. Let's take a halt to the Mueller investigation. Let's stop it. And let's turn it and get rid of all the agents doing the Mueller investigation. The reality is that somebody like that obviously shouldn't be working for the FBI. He's got emotional problems and probably needs Valium or something like that.
Giuliani was referring to Peter Strzok, the FBI agent who vowed to stop Trump from becoming president in a text uncovered in the IG report. Strzok is now facing his own day of reckoning as House Judiciary Chair Bob Goodlatte has begun proceedings to subpoena him. Strzok was the lead FBI agent, remember, in the Clinton email probe, a top agent in the FBI's Russia probe, and the agent who interviewed former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn. He then became a top investigator in Special Counsel Bob Mueller's Russia probe. All that ended, of course, when Strzok's bombastic anti-Trump texts with his lover, FBI attorney Lisa Page, were revealed. Strzok was demoted to the FBI's HR department, that's ironic, which raises the question, why the heck is he still working at the FBI? Especially in light of the text message revealed yesterday where he vowed to stop Trump from becoming president. Joining me now, our former FBI national spokesperson and special agent, John Iannarelli, attorney and RNC committeewoman from California, Harmeet Dillon, and former Assistant Attorney General Robert Driscoll. All right, I want to start with you, Bob, on this because it's fascinating to me how when you survey the other networks of the last 24 hours, it was like on to Stormy Daniels. They've spent precious little time on this. Oh, no evidence of bias. This is a big nothing burger. I'm so sick of that word, by the way. But let's remember what Horowitz did conclude, and this is important. Departing so clearly and dramatically from FBI and department norms, the decisions negatively impacted the perception of the FBI and the department as fair administrators of justice. Robert, fair administrators of justice now with a Russia collusion probe gone on for more than a year, about $18 million it's cost, apparently with no end in sight.
Well, I mean, the damage has been done, and I think this report makes it clear that there's rampant bias within the FBI and levels of the DOJ, and it's clear in the report. All the report says, and I think people take this sentence out of context, the report said that Horowitz couldn't link the examples of bias to any particular investigative decision, which of course he couldn't. No one generally writes down when they're doing something that improper. But he found bias, and it's through all 500 pages. On each page, there's more examples of bias, and one text message or email is worse than the next. And so the bias is there. It's just a question of he took a very broad view of essentially if any investigative decision was defensible, not proper, but just defensible, he passed on it. So I mean, I think it really is, to me, shockingly bad. Both the breadth of the report and the breadth of the bias and corruption was, I mean, I think shocking.
Harmeet, Peter Strzok is still collecting a taxpayer-funded salary, which, I mean, I can't believe he's still working, and of all places, in human resources. I mean, that just like takes the cake. You can't write how stupid that is. But it looks like Bob Goodlatte does want him to testify on Capitol Hill. Apparently, he's wanted to talk to him for over a year, and he's begun the process reportedly of getting that subpoena. It takes 2 days, I guess. So the process takes about 2 days. But he wants that. He wants Strzok up on Capitol Hill, and he wants information, and he wants it like yesterday.
Right. And the question is, when you read this shocking OIG report, why he's had this job for so long, Strzok, and, Wray, who the president was praising in his tweets, why they haven't done something about this already. There was evidence of bias. We see the shocking instance of the text that he sent back to his lover about how he wasn't going to let Trump become the president, and that was withheld from Congress. So when you read this report, you can't help feel like, number one, obviously it's a very thorough report and goes into a lot of the shocking bias, but the conclusion is, well, you know, we can't trade, we don't have a smoking gun, so we can't do anything about it. That's the problem all along with an Office of Inspector General investigation. They don't have the power to do anything about it. It's more like an after-the-fact HR, internal investigation as what we can do better next time. And that's not going to cut it here. But the damage that has been done to our country and the damage that is being done with the Mueller investigation, it requires stronger measures than simply an investigation into what went wrong. And we've got to do something about it.
John, the damage to the FBI, I think, cannot be overstated here. We have men and women who work so hard in the field offices all across this country, day by day, night by night, to keep Americans safe and do really great investigative work. This ended up being a political oppo research operation against, ultimately against the president with the Russia probe, but a CYA situation with Hillary Clinton and these emails all along. If you actually read this report, and I've gotten through most of it, there is a lot in this report that the press, of course, is conveniently glossing over.
You're right. The fact of the matter is that some horrible things were done that should have never occurred. And we have to keep in the context, though. Remember, this is a group of individuals who knew each other. Some were handpicked by their friends to work in this project, if you will. Meanwhile, you have 35,000 FBI employees doing good things every day and not acting biasly. I think it's important that they need to come clean here, and you're right. Whether or not Mr. Strzok should still be working at FBI headquarters is certainly a question a lot of us are asking.
Now, remember, guys, as we said, the IG did not say he found no bias at the FBI. He said that there was no documentary evidence that bias produced specific decisions. And we got to remember, there's another IG report coming down the pike. Well, you call it IG 2.0 if you want. And that could end up being loaded with evidence of such bias, because that's about the looking into the informants that were used in the Trump campaign and maybe these potential FISA abuses, the FBI handling of the Russia probe. So I want to go back to you, Bob, thinking that the IG, again, Horowitz, Trump was kind of annoyed today. He said, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there. Then he kind of petered out at the end. That's what Donald Trump said. But I think this other report could be really important in seeing what happened to place individuals or encourage individuals to try to penetrate these lower-level people inside the campaign.
Well, I think it could be important for two reasons. I mean, one is what you talked about. We'll find the basis for this Russia investigation, whether or not it was the dossier originally, whether or not it was an opposition research-generated investigation totally or not. But more importantly, we'll be able to lay it side by side with the IG report that just came out, because it will provide some context. So, I mean, in the Clinton investigation, we have the Clinton IT guy getting granted immunity for essentially nothing, admitting that they destroyed the emails after they were already under subpoena, no prosecution. Cheryl Mills being in the interview with Hillary Clinton as both a witness and a lawyer. Huma Abedin allowed to sit in on the Hillary interview. I mean, all those things, may be defensible individually in a vacuum, but an incredibly light touch for anyone who's ever gone through an FBI investigation. And then we'll get to compare that in 2.0 to, gee, what do you know? People's houses are being searched at 6 in the morning. Everyone's being charged with false statements, whether or not they're material to any given crime. Yeah. And so I think the second report could have, could be a big deal, because it could fill in some of these gaps, or at least allow us to draw some inferences.
Well, yeah. I mean, guys, they certainly were very zealous in trying to, find this evidence of Russia working with Trump. I mean, getting this professor in London, talk to Papadopoulos, all the stuff that they were trying to do. My goodness, they were, leaving no stone unturned, trying to get a Russian billionaire to help that Oleg Deripaska. I mean, they were doing everything. Meanwhile, with Hillary, it's well, maybe we shouldn't get the Wiener laptop. Maybe we should wait on that.
Right.
So a totally different approach, which also I think comes through when you really read the totality of this report. Harmeet, Giuliani today talked about the question we've been talking about for months here about whether the president should testify. I want you all to listen carefully to this.
What you think should happen now in the Mueller investigation?
They should end it. I mean, the IG report basically tells you that both prongs of the Mueller investigation are either corrupt or answered.
He went on to say the president should not, he basically said no interview of the president, he shouldn't be bothered with it. Harmeet, any thinking of yours that's changed from the beginning of a possible perjury trap for a president who, I mean, President Trump likes to talk. He's very affable. He loves to get his point across. He didn't do anything wrong, he says. So he's like, I'm happy to talk. He wants to talk. But as a lawyer, and I'm a lawyer as well, how dangerous is it for him to go into that special counsel's office?
Okay, Laura, so as to the first part of your question, does it change anything? No. From day one, I thought the president shouldn't talk. You and I both know that federal prosecutors are not just, regular prosecutors. They're the gunners. They're the go-getters. They're the ones who want to make their case and make their name. There's no bigger prey than the president of the United States. So he should not go in there because there's no confidence that the deck won't be stacked against him. We've seen that with Flynn. We've seen that how Strzok has behaved in many other instances. But in terms of witnesses, a CEO, a powerful person, is the worst witness. Anybody can tell you they're the worst witness because they're used to getting their way. Everybody in the room sucks up to them. And it's just a totally different scenario when you're talking, even seemingly casually, to a prosecutor or an FBI agent. So it would be a big mistake for any CEO, for any president, but particularly for this president.
Yeah. Well,
even
this is going
if
for
they
a legal
corrupt,
showdown.
And now we have seen the corruption pervading the FBI.
Yeah, like
so
that's what Giuliani's
not.
point was. Giuliani's point today was, now that we've seen, we know just what was going on in there with the desperate effort to stop him from becoming president. Cheryl Mills gets to sit in there when they're talking about whether they should subpoena Hillary. All that, it's, the cozy relationship between the press and the FBI agents. The press are giving perks to the FBI agents. They don't know where these leaks came from. It's totally out of control. And I want to go back to you, John,
it's corrupt.
because we have John Dowd, who exclusively gave us a comment tonight about what this IG report actually says. He said the clear evidence, John Dowd, former, of course, lead counsel for Trump, the clear evidence of his usurpation of power, violation of his oath of office, and material false statements to the public and Congress, all to conceal his own misconduct, warranted a criminal referral of Comey's conduct. The finding of no bias was ludicrous. The OIG's findings support the president's decision to fire Comey. John.
Absolutely. Comey was fired because of the things that he had done, and the president was right to step forward and take those actions. I also think a lot of things have been made out of the fact that the president fired a director of the FBI. It's not unprecedented. We saw it with William Sessions back in the early 90s, where he was fired by a Democratic president, President Clinton. There were firings of FBI directors before then. But this is clearly, based on the report we're seeing, gives good cause and justification for the actions the president took.
Then, guys, there was also the shocking development today. A federal judge, appointed by Obama, actually jailed Paul Manafort after Mueller claimed he tried to tamper with witnesses. And shortly thereafter, Rudy Giuliani responded by floating the idea of presidential pardons in the Russia investigation. Robert, this led Jeffrey Toobin to say the following about Giuliani. Let's watch.
It is so corrupt and unethical what Giuliani said. I mean, we are in an area here that is literally unprecedented because not that many people in American life have the power to give a pardon. I mean, we are so far out of normal ethical behavior that, it's just worth preserving our sense of outrage about it because so much of this stuff happens every day. We're kind of inured to it, but it really is appalling.
A sense of outrage. Was Jeffrey Toobin that outrage during Benghazi, Fast and Furious, but surveilling reporters, checking Cheryl Atkinson's computer? Robert, nevertheless, the throwing out the pardon thing, I probably wouldn't have done that if I were Rudy today. Yeah. It just chums the water for no real reason.
Well, and the other reason, too, is, just strategically as a defense lawyer, I wouldn't want Manafort pardoned before this case is over. Because once he's pardoned, his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination likely goes away. And so, if he is pardoned, he no longer faces criminal prosecution, he could conceivably be forced to testify. And moreover, there's just no reason to handle it now. You just wait and see where the chips fall. And if at some point later the president wants to pardon, he can. And as far as it being unprecedented, I mean, George Bush Sr. pardoned Cap Weinberger the day of his trial. I think it was the day before his trial.
I remember.
So I mean, it's been done. There's no question there is a inherent power the president has. So the pardon power is one of the few absolutes the president has, and there's no real check on it. So I just can't get that outrage of it. The answer to it is a political answer, which is that it's done publicly, and the president can suffer blowback for it if he does it.
Yeah, I mean, Harmeet, you can close it out for us, because always conjuring up this sense of moral outrage. And we had a myriad of instances where the Obama Justice Department, we had Eric Holder held in contempt of Congress over the documents, and I think it was Fast and Furious. Yep. We had all these things happen. We got the tarmac meeting. There's no moral outrage. Suddenly, we're outraged. Jeffrey Toobin and CNN is outraged over a discussion of pardon. Give me a break.
Somebody needs to give him the smelling salts. The the selective outrage is the hypocrisy is laughable. They should be very concerned as Americans about the pervasive corruption of the FBI and other agencies in the government, and not about this one instance. I'm outraged as a civil libertarian that a judge is appearing to use incarceration as a penalty, as a punishment for somebody prior to their trial. And we know that it's actually only supposed to be used preventative detention in very limited circumstances where it deals with flight risk or other issues. And I don't think that standard was met today. So that's what people should be outraged about from a civil liberty point of view.
She was really lecturing Manafort today, saying, well, you're not in junior high. I can't take away your cell phone, but can't trust you not to talk to witnesses. So goodbye. Thank you all. Fantastic panel. And with Trump flying so high at home and abroad, the resistance, it's kind of hit a wall. I'm going to explain their latest Wile E. Coyote scheme in tonight's Angle next. Meet the real cultists. That's the focus of tonight's Angle. You have to hand it to the anti-Trump resistance. They've tried a lot of different things to stop Donald Trump. Well, during the campaign, the chattering classes at various times called him a racist, xenophobe, he was a misogynist, he was stupid, a fraud in business, he wasn't as well read as the other candidates. He also didn't play nice in the sandbox, remember, with his fellow Republicans. He was brash, boorish, and an egomaniac, not fit for the presidency. And now, after this IG report came out yesterday, we know that burrowed inside the FBI were agents by day and activists by night who were working on an insurance policy to stop Trump from winning the presidency. And then, when that didn't work, fired FBI Director Jim Comey leaked his notes to a pal who, in turn, leaked them to the press, all to trigger the appointment of special counsel Robert Mueller on that bogus Russia collusion theory. And now, more than a year and $17 million later, while the special counsel's approval numbers have gone down and President Trump's have gone up, hey, the economy is soaring. And he's unleashed the possibility of a denuclearized Korean peninsula. And of course, Trump is enforcing our immigration laws after years of neglect. Wages are going up. Unemployment is way down. And as a result, Americans are more confident about their future. Yay. So now the Trump resistance, they got to try something new.
It's not a good place for any party to end up with a cult-like situation as it relates to a president.
It has devolved into a cult.
Quick, Amanda, you're going to have the last word.
Donald Trump is accused of leading a cult.
So cult is fair to you, Eric?
I think the Republican Party is headed that way.
I think cult is a very strong but a very good word in this case.
Obama called us bitter clingers, and Hillary called us a basket of deplorables. And an agent in Comey's FBI used less ambiguous language. Check out this nugget from the IG report. This was how an agent described Trump voters the day after the 2016 election. Trump supporters are all poor to middle class, uneducated, lazy, POS, that think he will magically grant them jobs for doing nothing. They probably didn't watch the debates, aren't fully educated on his policies, and are stupidly wrapped up in his unmerited enthusiasm. Nice. Well, look, Donald Trump isn't perfect. None of us are. But more Americans are seeing that his new and often unconventional approaches to governance are paying off. And they're seeing past the press's constant sniping and criticism. And they're recognizing that through it all, Trump has focused on making life better, safer, more prosperous for the American people. That's not cultish. It's common sense. The closest thing to a cult that we've seen in politics over the past decade is the cult of Obama. Who can forget these gems?
You know, you are the equivalent of a rock star in politics.
The feeling most people get when they hear a Barack Obama speech, I felt this thrill going up my leg. I mean,
of all the honors that have come your way, all the publicity, who does it make you think of? Is there a loved one?
He's got so many pluses, hasn't he? I mean, in the sense he's personable, he's handsome.
I don't think we've ever had a president, save Lincoln, who is as great a speechwriter as this man.
Everything about this first family is historic.
You're a better man than me, sir. You really care about us and the American people.
I could watch that all night long. We had so many clips, by the way, we couldn't even fit them in the angle, okay? So maybe we'll do a special show just to review all the fawning over Obama. But look, the adulation was piled on so high, it was so over the top, that even Obama joked and sang about it.
Can somebody tell me what happened to the Greek columns that I requested? And to name my greatest strength, I guess it would be my humility. Greatest weakness, it's possible that I'm a little too awesome.
So in love with you.
And although Obama left the White House, his cult members haven't left the commune. Democrats are desperate to have him hit the campaign trails again for the midterms.
Meet the midterms meets President Obama. Yep, former President Obama is wading into the velvet sea of this year's midterm elections.
Obama says Democrats should talk about kitchen table issues.
You went to the former President Obama saying we need you involved in these midterms. True.
I did about 6 months ago and asked for help, and he was gracious, and he's helping us raise some money.
Do they have no one else to turn to? No one? I thought they had such a deep bench in the Democrat Party. Don't think for a second that Trump's economic nationalism, his conservative, more populist philosophy, won't outlast his presidency. It surely will. There's simply no broad constituency for the old Bush republicanism of unaccountable trade deals, lax borders, and perpetual military interventionism. Those days, my friends, are over. So let the good times roll until the Democrats and the bitter Bushies come up with some other lame line of attack against this successful president and his hopeful, very optimistic supporters. And that's the angle. All right, joining me now to react, host of Media Buzz right here on Fox News, Howard Kurtz, and Dick Morris, former senior advisor to President Bill Clinton. I've been dying to talk to all of you guys today about this because when I started hearing this meme this week, oh, it's the cult of Trump. They tried to say he was dumb. He had dementia. Remember that last year? They needed to, remove him from office. Like the cabinet had to be activated. And now it's like, well, they're all just a bunch of Jim Jones Kool-Aid drinkers. Dick Morris, you've seen the cultish, slavish adulation of both Clinton and Obama. Is Trump more about policy or personality?
Well, I think his policy is crucial, but I think the thing about his personality that is capturing people is that he's congruent with what people want. We want a president that gets stuff done without prevaricating or waffling or where the wind's blowing. And Trump is a builder. He's a developer. That's what they do. He gets it built. And when he talks about Korea or Iran or the economy, the critics all say he can't do it. It's impossible. But then he gets it done. He implements it. And even after he does, they still say he didn't do it or it'll come apart. And that creates a real sense that apart from ideology, apart from program, apart from party, this guy is somebody to follow because he gets it done. It's the same concept that inspired Reagan and even Churchill's supporters, that we don't care if he's left or right, Labor or Tory or Democrat or Republican. We love the way he acts, the way he gets it done, and the way he expresses our innermost desires about what the government should do for us.
Right, he's unapologetic, and his desire and his impatience, I would say, for change for America, for American workers.
Right.
And that's just refreshing. And Howie, you've been around Washington for so long. It's refreshing to hear somebody like today, and I know the media were all over it saying, oh, they had the lie meter or something for when he went off to the driveway today. And he spent, what did he spend, Howie, like 45 minutes with answering questions just out in the driveway. Yeah. I've never seen anything like this. I thought it was great. But you just wrote a piece about the supposed cult phenomenon and the lines coming from the media all week. So tell us your thoughts about where the real cult phenomenon is today.
Yeah, the media have a new four-letter C word for Republicans who support President Trump. And, think about that word, and it's become so common now, cult. I mean, kind of spooky, kind of creepy, extremist overtones. Of course, the people who would follow such a leader are mindless, delusional whack jobs. And, there's a sense here, you showed Bob Corker earlier, who never misses a chance to kick the president. The media just following Corker, but it took me about, 15 seconds on the Google to find New York Times editorial last week, the cult of Trump. Axios in February, the cult of Trump. National Journal last year, Trump's cult overwhelms the GOP. Now, I get the idea that this is President Trump's Republican Party, and whether out of loyalty or out of fear, and many Republicans are falling into line, but to call it a cult, and nobody even gets upset about it, just shows you the media mindset. They still don't quite grasp Donald Trump's appeal.
No, it's unbelievable to me, Dick, that now a year and a half into this, his numbers are going up, Mueller's are going down, historic low unemployment for African Americans, all the measures that we've talked about. Confidence is up, a possible denuclearized Korean Peninsula. This is just wild positive stuff happening. And yet this is the best they have for the attack on Trump. They're waiting for the big deliverance from Mueller, but this is it. And I just want to play something because I know you're going to love this. Lindsey Graham today, again, not always in agreement with Trump, Lindsey Graham was being criticized for actually working with Trump. Let's watch.
I like the president. I trust him in terms of trying to do things that are big and matter.
But if people say this is like two-faced, where is the Lindsey Graham of standing up to Donald Trump? What do you say?
When I worked with President Obama, and I did on occasion, I was a hero. Now, when I work with President Trump, I'm two-faced. I know how the game's played. So if you don't like me working with President Trump to make the world a better place, I don't give a
I mean, you got Lindsey Graham to swear on TV. That's pretty interesting. But they're trying everything, Dick, but none of it is sticking. I'm telling you, I think they're like out of political ammo here. Close it out for us.
Well, I think there are two things. I think first, the Democrats bet on impeachment. They bet on Russiagate. And that's falling apart, and they have no B plan. And secondly, on policy, it was so clear we're opposed to the tax cut, we're opposed to Trump's economy, Trump is horrible, that when he accomplishes something, which he's doing tremendously, they can't share the spotlight, they can't share the credit. Like Republicans could share Clinton's credit for welfare reform and the balanced budget. It was good for them all. But the Democrats have drawn such a line that they can't.
They're fresh out of ideas. It's showing, and I think the American people are noticing it. Sorry, I had to cut you off there. By the way,
don't worry, you're right.
Why are the media turning to scripture now to attack Trump on immigration? You got to be kidding me. And the deplorable meaning of dads. Next, Friday Follies with Raymond Arroyo. Now for Friday Follies. Is this one of the signs of the apocalypse? Well, something strange is up when they start quoting the Bible on MSNBC. Here to explain it to us and so much more in tonight's Friday Follies is New York Times bestselling author, Fox News contributor Raymond Arroyo, who joins us from New Orleans. Raymond, apparently there's an explosion of men also diving into plastic surgery. Let's hope that's not a Father's Day trend. What's up, Raymond?
Oh, yeah, we're going to get into all of that. I got to start with this Bible mania that's overtaken the networks, Laura. Look, earlier this week, the Southern Baptist Convention and the Catholic bishops chastised the Trump administration for their immigration policies. Well, that provoked Jeff Sessions, our Attorney General. He took the religious bait and started quoting Scripture, saying St. Paul tells us you have to obey the law. Well, now, wonder of wonders, Ali Velshi today is on MSNBC. He looked like Pat Robertson's understudy. Look.
We actually did dig through the Bible to find passages that lent themselves to the current border practice of separating migrant children from their parents. And I want to begin with Matthew chapter 19, verse 14. But Jesus said, "Suffer little children and forbid them not to come unto me."
Laura, who is forbidding children from going to Jesus? This is conflating the scripture and turning it into a public policy pronouncement that it was never intended to be.
How long did the Bible reading go on MSNBC? I'm glad they have the Bible over there. That's a positive thing.
Oh, no. This went on and on. Ali looks like a theologian. Look.
Uh-oh.
Not finished yet. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 10. Woe unto them that decree unrighteousness decrees and that write grievousness.
Plastic surgery. Okay, all right.
Now
we get the point.
That one's interesting, Laura, but that's an Old Testament reading. Is Ali suggesting we should be a theocracy where you follow God's commands and the kings follow his orders? I don't think so. Look, this policy of separating parents has been on the books for years. They did it during the Obama administration. They did it during the Bush administration. Now I see clerics all over TV saying God wouldn't want this. There are a lot of things God wouldn't want.
Well, you know
if
what?
we're going to use the Bible as the government manual, let's go.
All the Catholic churches, they can take all the 11,000 kids, they can clothe them, feed them, send them to college, all the medical care, because the taxpayers are out of dough. They're sick of it. Raymond, we have to get into the explosion of men who are doing plastic surgery, okay?
I knew you'd want to go here. I haven't had any.
I love this segment. Okay, so what are the most popular types of plastic surgery for the the metrosexual men out there with their skinny jeans, man buns, and man purses?
Laura, it's risen by 29%. Here are the top 5, and I'm surprised by this, actually. The first is nose reshaping, then eyelid surgery, liposuction, breast reduction was number 4.
Breast reduction?
And hair transplant. Hair transplants were at the bottom. I thought that'd be at the top, but breast reductions apparently top it. I don't need any help there just yet.
Wait a second.
So I'm going to hold off on that for Father's Day.
Well, is that when people say the word moobs, is that what they're talking about? Am I allowed to say that on TV? So, okay,
Man
so men
boobs?
just
I hope not.
So it's not an augmentation, unless we're talking about a gender transformation. It's a reduction.
No, they are.
That's
they
what
are
they
reducing. They are reducing the man boobage. I have to get to one other thing. Kraft Cheese just started a contest for Father's Day. They auctioned off 5 sculptures of Dad. They're calling it "Cheesy is Great." Now, can you imagine doing a promotion like this for Mother's Day, saying Mom is cheesy? I doubt it. I hate this diminishment of Dad. I saw another thing, Planet Fitness put out a calendar about dad bods, diminishing dad's bods. This is a bad time to be kind of wrapping dads, making him look like a fool. It's Father's Day. We should celebrate men and fathers.
Celebrate fathers, male role models all across this country who act as fathers. I mean,
agree.
Raymond's godfather. Raymond's a godfather, one of my kids. So come on.
Hey,
thank you to all the dads.
And I brought my daughter tonight.
Yay! All right. Have a great weekend, Raymond. And by the way, this could be the most vile allegation ever made against the president. You're going to have to hear what a former RNC chair said about Trump. I'll play it for you. We'll debate it next. The demagoguery on the separation of children from their illegal immigrant parents has been absolutely idiotic. But it reached a shocking new low on MSNBC this morning. Check out this exchange between former Obama campaign staffer Stephanie Cutter and former RNC chair Michael Steele.
We can't find a solution to this problem without harming children, without putting them into concentration camps.
I call this a concentration camp for kids because that's exactly what it's turning out to. When you give kids 22 hours of lockup time and 2 hours of airtime, what else can it be? And if this is where this country is going, the American people need to wake up and pay attention because your kids could be next.
And that'll come for your little dog, too. Well, you just saw the former head of the GOP, who I know, and I'm really disappointed in you, Michael Steele, accuse the president of running concentration camps? I'd like to say I'm speechless, but I have to talk about it for a segment, so let's discuss it with my friend. We don't agree on everything, but I adore him, civil rights attorney and talk radio host Leo Terrell. Happy Friday, Leo. How are you?
Happy Friday, and I can't wait till you get to Los Angeles. I'm taking you out to dinner. I want to buy you off with kindness.
All right. I love it. Leo, look, I am a mother of 3 children, okay? And the idea of parents being separated from children is horrific. And in any way you think about it, it feels wrong. However, to describe what we are doing at our border, where people cross the border illegally or present themselves and say, I want asylum, as concentration camps is both, I think, dismissive and minimizing the Holocaust, and it's just wrong. I mean, these kids, they have clean, nice facilities. They're getting entertainment, recreation, tutoring, teachers, English classes. I mean, they get, they're treated as well as we can treat them under the circumstances. Your reaction to this?
Laura, I would like to quote a person you're familiar with, Reverend Franklin Graham, who said, the separation of these children right now is terrible and disgraceful. I think you would agree with that, because you being a mother of 3, these children, why are they being denied access to their parents? And guess what? That man in the White House with an executive order can resolve that. And I would think that you can agree that with Reverend Franklin Graham, Leo Terrell, and Laura Ingraham, that there is not a justification for those kids to be separated from their parents.
Yeah.
We're a better country than that.
Yeah, look, what I think we have to do to solve this problem, I think the president wants to do this, we have to have a normalized process that is not rife with fraud, that is not just someone who comes to the border and says, gee, if I bring a child, whether the child is my own or my child or someone I found along the way in one of the cattle cars that the drug smugglers and the human traffickers are bringing people into. I mean, you can't just allow someone who comes into the country with a child to say, okay, we're going to house you together, and then we're going to release you into the United States and come appear at your hearing in 2 years. Because guess what? 70% of them, 80% of them aren't showing up for their hearing. So, we can't house kids the same way we house adult criminals, obviously. And sadly, you violate our laws, you're running afoul of the U.S. legal system. And criminals are separated from their children all the time.
But right now, Laura, there's a game that's being played in Congress. Republican majority, 2 immigration bills, a decision to resolve this immigration issue. DACA is being used as a midterm ploy. Why can't, help me out here, I'm a dum-dum. Why can't the Republicans, with those 2 bills, get some type of resolution of border control that enforces the border?
Well, they might be doing it. Yeah, Leo, they actually, I think we have a pretty good a shot at something really positive happening. I really do. And look, we had the 2014 crush at the border. I know you and I were talking about it back then, when during Obama we had 55,000 family units and kids, underage, minors. Sometimes, by the way, the kids say they're kids, and we have to do DNA tests and we find out they're 21 years of age. That's happening too, and it's happening frequently. So our border people to be described as running concentration camps, and another well-known person using the word Nazi. The White House put out a statement tonight and said it is appalling for our federal agents to be referred to in this manner. And many of our agents, it's appalling that Joe Scarborough would compare sworn federal law enforcement officers who put their lives on the line every day to keep American people safe to Nazis. And I completely agree. Hey, this type of inflammatory and unacceptable rhetoric that puts a target on the backs of our great law enforcement. And I agree. I mean, we can debate this policy, but we have tens of thousands of people crossing our border, and we have veterans sleeping in the street about 3 blocks from where we're broadcasting here in San Francisco. As long as we have one veteran on a street tonight, we shouldn't be spending money on illegal immigrants in the United States. I'm sorry. We gotta catch them and take them back to their home country. Close it out.
Listen, but the smoke signal, the smoke game is to play the hyperbole. I'm not saying that, but I'm asking you, Laura Ingraham, what's the end game? Where's the executive order? What's the end game to the immigration issue? What's the end game as to what's going to happen to those kids?
Yeah, build the wall, end chain migration, reform asylum laws. Look, I could write the bill in like 15 minutes, right, on a piece of paper.
You got Republicans who
don't ask me to defend Congress on this. Leo, may I see you in L.A.? I hope to see you in L.A. It's so great to be here. All right, it's great to be here in California. But is it on the verge of cracking up? In a moment, we're going to tell you how voters could turn the Golden State into something totally unrecognizable. We're coming to you tonight from San Francisco. I have had no pies thrown at me yet, and so that's a pretty good night so far. California is a spectacular state, but it has a notorious split personality. In November, there'll be a measure on the ballot to divide the Golden State into 3 parts. Let's bring back San Francisco attorney Harmeet Dillon to discuss this wild proposal. Now, Harmeet, you're just a couple of blocks from where I am now, but there is, there's the Central Valley, there's Bakersfield, there's some areas of California, Orange County, that's kind of conservative, but up in the Bay Area, we are. I mean, it's a different kind of place. What's going to happen?
Laura, this is a wacky proposal that's been put on the ballot by a billionaire. He previously put on a proposal a few years ago to split it into 6. It's going to fail. I mean, for starters, who wants 6 liberal Democratic senators in Congress? I don't think anybody wants that. The way these lines are drawn, it's going to be 2 liberal states and 1 moderate state that'll still probably vote liberal. So it's a non-starter, I think, both for Democrats